every different step in this proxy war in Ukraine, this absolutely insane, unhinged, let's see how many people we can kill proxy war in Ukraine, every step of it has seemed to push us closer and closer and closer to the brink of nuclear war. And the latest of those steps is Biden has announced that Ukraine can use U.S. weapons, which are the only ones they have capable of this, U.S. weapons to fire deep within Russia. Basically, U.S. weapons will be used if this happens. It'll be U.S. personnel that did the training for these weapons. It'll be U.S. personnel that gave the information for these weapons and how to fire them. So basically, every step will be the U.S. firing deep within Russia, except for maybe the finger on the button. That might actually be a Ukrainian. But it is horrifying, and Russia has said that this, is a step too far, as they've made clear since the beginning. And here is Reuters saying, they're quoting someone in Russia, the Russian government, as saying this is a reckless decision by Joe Biden's administration to allow Ukraine to fire American missiles deep into Russia, which it said would draw the United States directly into the conflict. The New York Times and Reuters reported that Biden's administration had made the decision on long-range strikes. Putin said on September 12th that the Western approval for such a step would mean, quote, the direct involvement of NATO countries, the United States, and European countries in the war in Ukraine, because NATO military infrastructure and personnel would have to be involved in the targeting and firing of these missiles. And you have to wonder, why would Biden, and we know Biden's not making his own decisions because good luck getting him to put on a t-shirt. So why would the Biden administration, the people around him, decide to allow this step towards nuclear war, towards things unraveling really quick? Why would they decide to do this within months of Trump coming into office is an interesting question, and I'll pose it to you and see what your thoughts are. I am going to give my thoughts as to why they would do this now when Trump has said repeatedly, and again, as you know, I call Trump a million things. Adolf Hitler might be my favorite, but he has one of the positive things, very few, is that he said he's going to end the proxy war in Ukraine. And he seems to be working towards that already, calling, as they say, the principal actors. We know that the United States, under Joe Biden, has made sure that there would not be a peace talks between Russia and Ukraine from day one. Over the past several years, they have made sure that peace talks cannot happen. And that is despite the fact that just the other day, Zelensky has said Ukraine must try to ensure war ends next year through diplomacy. Oh, really? Through diplomacy? You mean sitting down at a peace table? You mean sitting down with Russia and deciding basically how to end this? Oh, you mean the thing that many of us, mainly in independent media, have said should be done since day one? Let's sit down and end this thing because that's how it's going to end eventually anyway. And the liberals, the neocons, all of those who push for war, endless war, they said, oh, no, that can't pop. You can't. No, you can't sit down and decide how to end this war. No, you have to try and drain Russia over years and years and kill hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian, mainly men. But Zelensky says Ukraine must sit down at a peace table and end this. Here's a quote from Zelensky. From our side, we must do everything so that this war ends next year, ends through diplomatic means, said in a Ukrainian radio interview aired on Saturday. Boy, this sounds like the opposite of what the U.S. has been saying over and over for years. Back to why would Biden and the Biden administration and the liberals who are now getting kicked out of power, why would they allow something that is so provocative that could quickly spiral towards nuclear back and forth? Why would they allow that right now? Well, here is MSNBC, and they're not going to say what it is that I think is the real reason, but I'll point out why I find their analysis kind of funny.
Two basic reasons. It's clear that President-elect Donald Trump intends to go into negotiations when he's inaugurated, and since he's already begun those, as he said he would, by talking with the principals.
So Trump has already said he's going to be in the negotiations, and he's already in negotiations because they know, the quote-unquote principals know that they're talking to the next president, so that gives him a lot of power. So This guy who is on MSNBC, this analyst, is saying part of the reason that they're now allowing perhaps long-range U.S. missiles fired into Russia is because peace talks are on the horizon. Let's see if we can spiral this thing a little more out of control before peace talks begin. Because in this regard, on this one topic, Trump is not the unhinged one. The unhinged are those in power right now in the U.S. government who want to push us further and further and further towards nuclear war. And now they're worried that peace talks may be on the horizon. So let's allow Ukraine to fire U.S. missiles deep within Russia. I think that it seems evident that they want things to spiral a little worse. I'm not saying they want a nuclear exchange, but they want things to get a little worse so that by the time Trump and his goons get into power and actually seem to be trying to end this thing, it is all the more difficult because you've had U.S. long-range missiles fired into Russia. It seems to me like it's a way of making sure this does not end soon, or trying to ensure it does not end soon. And again, Trump is not anti-war. If you are dumb enough to believe that, then I've got an alien spacecraft to sell you. Trump is pro-war in a million different ways, okay? First year of his last presidency, 40,000 bombs rained down, okay? And that number probably maintained the same throughout his presidency, but we only have the numbers from, I think, his first year because he stopped giving the numbers of how many bombs were raining down because he didn't like people talking about it. So Trump is not anti-war. But in this regard, in this one thing, with the proxy war in Ukraine, Trump is actually the one pushing for peace talks. It is a bizarre and upside down world. These are all warmongers. These are all bloodthirsty, genocidal maniacs. It just so happens in this one little area, Trump happens to be a little more peaceful for some odd, weird reason.